which is it always feels strange when the first year. So I feel like I don't get used to the new date, like the new year until like May. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess it is that year now. But yeah, so hopefully happy and healthy new year for everybody. And Torah has lined up nicely for us this week that we are closing the book of Genesis, and we'll then next week we'll pick up Exodus. So in theory, if it were going to line up a little bit better, last Shabbat should have been Genesis, but we'll still take it. So we are looking at Parshat Vayechi, and this is the closing episode of Genesis. And sort of the key highlights of what happens during this time is Jacob is getting ready to die. And he knows this, so he wants to speak to his children and some of his grandchildren before he dies, which is a very common thing that people want, of course, want to do at the end of their life. They want to see their family. They want to talk to them. I did a funeral a week or two ago, and the woman who had died was holding on until two of her children were there with her. One wasn't able to be there, and she got on the phone with the third child and was able to speak to her. And the next day was, able to let go. And right, this is a very common thing that we hear, right? That people it's important that they say what needs to be said as their life comes to an end. Um, so this is what's happening in the parsha this week. But I think it's an interesting. It sort of wraps up this Jacob saga. So there's like Jacob is the character who is sort of the longest time in Genesis, right? Like so we have all the like Abraham and Isaac is actually the shortest. And then Jacob, we hear the whole rich trajectory of his life that he starts out as this, troublemaking, manipulative thief, basically who leaves home, is able to grow and adapt and builds a family, a huge family that becomes really, we start to see the accumulation of descendants really start to pick up, right, with Jacob. Um, and he, and then there's the whole Joseph story, and they're reunited and they come to Egypt. And so now we're coming to the close of Jacob's life. Um, and the thought that I have, and for those of you who've read this before, is there are many ways to interpret what Jacob has to say to his children. That he has blessings for them, but there is a question of are they blessings or are they slights? And I think we all know, no one can quite stick the dagger in sometimes like a parent. And so what I want to do is we sort of look at the text from this week. I'm going to pull up uh, the text, show screen. The host has not allowed screen sharing. Whoever is the host, may I share my screen? Great. I apologize. It says webinar event, so I would use your name if I knew who it was. But thank you. All right.
It's Ash.
Sorry.
It's Asher. It's
Thank you, Ashley.
Asher.
Perfect. Um, so what I titled this text study is one last trick, but I put a question mark at the end of it because I'm not sure. Because if we recall from who Jacob has been, he actually, this is a question I'll ask you all because I know you are all uh, educated Torah scholars. So, what tricks have we seen Jacob pull earlier in his life? David, you got to unmute.
First
Yeah.
is dispossessing his brother of his birthright, and then on top of that, dispossessing his brother of the blessing. So he's basically his two kickoff moves are to swipe something that's not his and go on from there.
Right. So to steal from his brother, perfect. Really important things, right? This isn't like little like, oh, like I just took his favorite belt or I just, like it's not something like that. It's his birthright and his blessing, right? So what other tricks have we seen Jacob pull? Nina?
Are we talking after he had children or before?
Just in his life, what have we seen Jacob
Oh,
pull?
okay. That he favored uh, one of his sons more than the others.
Yes, right. So he favored Joseph, to the point that Joseph, kind of turned into this bratty tattletale, getting his brothers in trouble, right? And so this was something else that how Jacob sort of uh was unfair, right? We might call that a trick with his other sons. Perfect.
We used him as a spy, almost.
Uh-huh. Oh, right. Yes, using him as a spy. Exactly. Yeah. Ben, you wanna go ahead?
Well, Rabbi, didn't he kind of trick or sleight of hand his brother into sort of, he was kind of an enemy, then he became an ally through, I don't know, charisma, charm, or
Mhm.
deceit. He was able to flip the script on his brother.
So that's a great question, and I think that's like a really helpful, right? Because once people start showing they're willing to be deceptive and manipulative, you can never fully believe what they're showing, right? So he reconciles with Esau, throwing himself on the ground, begging for his forgiveness. And so then you raise a question, right? Was that genuine teshuvah, um, or was that manipulation? And I think that's a
Like,
really fair question.
again, we call that today maybe a grifter.
A grifter. Oh
Sort
yeah.
of like a grifter, not exactly, but can you ever
Um,
trust the grifter?
yes, exactly. Susan, you had your hand raised?
You asking just the deceptive parts, but he had a major failing in showing favoritism several times. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to Rachel, and then certainly we know that to Joseph. And Rabbi Sachs wrote, "Love is not enough. You have to consider those that you don't love as well, not that necessarily that you hate." But there were other deceptions. If you talk referring to deceptions
Mm-hmm.
or just failings, deception. There was something with the sheep that he was getting back with Laban, the sheep and the goats, where they're striped.
Mm.
I never get that, but I know that was he was paying Laban back for Laban's own deceptions. So we see him as a trickster, but on top of that, there was a favoritism there also that caused problems among the brothers and even the sisters as well.
Definitely. Definitely. Rebecca, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just have sort of a different take. He may have been a trickster, but that's kind of the way he was raised. I mean, his mother tricked him into pretending that he was Esau, and then he was tricked again by Laban. So it's relative to the way he was raised, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. So it could have been like that's sort of what he knew. Um, so the real trick that I want us to think of too, right? So uh when he steals the blessing from Esau, uh he goes to Isaac, his father, right? And he dresses up, he pretends uh that he's his brother, right? And Isaac can't see so well. Um, and he asks specifically, like, is this the right brother? Is this the right son? and he deceives him. And so it's this moment where Isaac can't see very well. He's going blind. He's old, and he gives this blessing, and Jacob tricks him and gets the blessing for himself. So right. So these are all these instances where uh, he's playing all these tricks. So in these last moments in his life, I think there's a question of uh, is he playing another trick or is he being genuine? So that's what we're going to look at as we go through some of these stories. So we're going to start reading. If someone would like to read from us, Genesis 48. Would anyone like to read the English for us? David, go ahead.
Turn my microphone. Sometime afterward, Joseph was told, "Your father is ill." So he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. When Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to see you," Israel summoned his strength and sat up in bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, "El Shaddai, who appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, blessed me and said to me, 'I will make you fertile and numerous, making of you a community of peoples, and I will assign this land to your offspring to come for an everlasting possession.' Now, your two sons who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to Egypt shall be mine. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine, no less than Reuben and Simeon. But progeny born to you after them shall be yours. They shall be recorded instead of their brothers in their inheritance. I do this because when I was returning from Padan, Rachel died to my sorrow while I was journeying in the land of Canaan. When still some distance short of Ephrath, and I buried her there on the road to Ephrath. Now Bethlehem. Noticing Joseph's sons, Israel asked, "Who are these?" And Joseph said to his father, "These are my sons who God has given to me. Bring them here to me," he said, "that I may bless them." Now Israel's eyes were dim with age. He could not see. So Joseph brought them close to him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, "I never expected to see you again, and here God has let me see your grandchildren as well." Joseph then removed them from his knees and bowed low with his face to the ground. Joseph took the two of them, Ephraim with his right hand, Israel's left, and Manasseh with his left hand, Israel's right, and brought them close to him. But Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, though he was younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, thus crossing hands, although Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph, saying, "The God in whose ways my father Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd from the day of my birth, from my birth to this day, the messenger who has redeemed me from all harm, bless the lads. In them may my name be recalled, and the names of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and may they be teeming multitudes upon the earth." When Joseph saw that his father was placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he thought it wrong. He took hold of his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head and to Manasseh's. "Not so, father," Joseph said to his father, "for the other one is the firstborn. Place your right hand on his head." But his father objected, saying, "I know, my son, I know. He too shall become a people. He too shall be great. Yet his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall be plentiful enough for nations." So he blessed them that day, saying, "By you shall Israel invoke blessings, saying, 'God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh.'" Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh.
Great. Thank you. So my first question is, right? So Jacob is dying. He calls his children to him. Joseph brings his own children, right? So they can see their grandfather. And he goes to get blessings. Israel wants to bless the grandchildren. So Joseph presents, the older one in the position of favor and the younger one in the secondary position. And when Israel goes to bless them, he doesn't do it with the correct hand that Joseph thought he was going to do. He switches, right? Thus giving the younger one greater blessing and putting the younger one in the primary position and the older one in the secondary. So in this moment, this episode, this scene, what echoes of previous things in Jacob's life might we notice here?
Yes, he's doing But it's reversing the scene or replaying the scene with Isaac. He's now blind, Jacob. Isaac was blind. Jacob took the blessing, he's the younger one, and now Jacob is giving the younger the blessing with his right hand, which is the strength.
Mm-hmm.
The older one, I guess some blessing because he's got the left hand on there, but not the crucial one. So it's a replay of this earlier scene, down to the fact that he was almost blind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now he's calling the shots and giving the blessing as he had taken it before.
Yeah, I think the blindness is a really important, right? Like that, that he can't see as he's blessing the next generation, and there's some reversal happening.
But was he really blind? I mean, he knew what he was doing.
So that's your take. He knew what he was doing.
Because he crossed his hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
he was physically blind. Was he emotionally or spiritually not blind? I don't know. Or was he just replaying the scene and giving the younger the upper hand?
Yeah, definitely. Brad, do you have a hand raised?
Yeah, this seems like a recipe for future trouble. And I'm wondering, what do we know about Manasseh and Ephraim in the future? What happens to them?
So they become tribes, right? Part of the 12 tribes.
Right?
There is no tribe of Joseph. There's only the tribe of Ephraim and the tribe of Manasseh. Ephraim does end up being a sort of more prominent tribe in the history of, like, you hear more about Ephraimites than, I don't even know what Manassans. I'm not even sure what the family name for them would be. Um, so him and his family do become more important in the story of the Jewish people later on. Yeah.
But
Mara?
is there
Oh,
is there hostility between the brothers? Is there
not that we know of.
no,
Not that we
no.
know of. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because
Hmm.
that doesn't follow the pattern.
Right, right,
So, what are we to make of that?
right. So the
As
reverse.
this, as
Mhm.
the book of Genesis ends.
Yeah. So the pattern, right, is the reversal of the younger becoming the leader, more important than the older, but usually there's with resentment and pain and some kind of issues along the way too. Um, I would, so my answer to what do we make of that, I would give you a literary answer that the book of Genesis is telling the story of this immediate family, and there's lots of family drama and family dynamics and parents and children and favoritism and all that. And the story from Exodus and really the rest of Torah is the story of a people, of a nation. Right? As they, like, the next thing we're going to hear next week is, and the people, the children of Israel grew and became many, and and Pharaoh was, scared, enslaved, Moses, blah, blah, blah. Um, and so it's a story of a nation from there on. And so these inter sibling rivalries are not as important in the story. That's the answer I would give. Um, wait, hold on. So I think so. Mara had a hand raised.
Yeah, so I'm looking at verses 10 and 11.
Mm-hmm.
And first, we're told the eyes of Israel were dim for age so that he could not see. Then we're told that he says to Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, God hath let me see thy seed also. So the question is, how can these two things be true at the same time? And I would suggest that there's we're being asked to see that there's a difference between seeing this world and seeing in terms of what God reveals to us in this world.
So, right. So is there a difference between literal sight and
Insight.
insight? Yeah.
And that we're told God hath let me see thy seed also, for me somehow suggests that even if we choose not to do what appears to be right in this world, we still have the potential to see a world that's so much better, and a world that that God intends us to aspire to.
Yeah. So kind of witnessing versus being able to literally see is more important. Nice. Very nice. Susan, you had a hand raised, so I want to make sure we get to you.
Yeah, I like that with the insight, and that's what I was trying to the word that I was trying to come to before. But in terms of Brad's statement, Manasseh was one of the half tribes that got the land east of the Jordan, if I recall correctly. And Israel, the northern kingdom, was also known as Ephraim. And correct? Is that?
No, it was the two kingdoms were Judah and Israel.
Yeah, and that eventually was conquered by the Assyrians. It disappeared. But I wonder if some of the conflict that I agree, I mean, that's definitely the second one is nation building, but you have some conflict between tribes then, with a rebellion of Korah and Dathan, that kind of a thing. And then Reuben wanting this.
Bless you.
So you have some of that going, the lineage continuing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the blessing for Manasseh and Ephraim, you say, why that? They say, because those were the last, here's the Midrash, the two brothers who didn't fight with
Yeah.
were jealous of. That's
Yeah. Nice. Panina, yes.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think the power is in the name itself. They totally believe that wherever you gave a name to somebody, it will fulfill a certain destiny, a certain history that will be attached to that particular name. And that's why we always are, we were offered so many countries before 1948, and Herzl said, no, 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 it has to be Israel. Israel means God will rule. And I think the power of the name was very important about what they assumed the future will be for that particular person who carries the name or the tribe that carries the name. That's why we keep talking about the names, the names, the names. It's just was that belief. It was a certain power to the name itself, that it will be fulfilled. What it means will follow.
Right. So if this is right, so we talked about what are the similarities between this moment and previous ones? So here's my next question. Is this genuine, or is this some kind of trick that Jacob is pulling?
I think it was genuine.
Okay, so we got genuine.
I totally believe that the name is going to fulfill the future will be according to what it was named with. The particular tribe was named with.
Right. So this moment where he crosses his arms, right, and he gives these blessings, is this a trick? Is this genuine? What do we think? David?
Oh, I think it's genuine, and it's the key line for me is when he says to his son, "I know, I know." There's quite, oh, you're about to make a mistake. I know, I know, I know what I'm. It's in effect saying, "I know what I'm doing," and I mean, I always think when the firstborn, first of all, you don't want to be a firstborn in Genesis. It's not a good thing. Better job is second. But it's also I think it's saying whatever God ordains for the people, you still have to make good choices along the way. It's not going to be done for you. You have to do it. You have to fulfill your destiny yourself. And that
Mm.
picking the right leaders, picking the right blessed people, the right leaders, the right thing. So to me, that is always these switches are ways of saying, pay attention, use your eyes, do what seems right.
Right. So this is all a matter of what needs like what's actually the right thing to do. What's the actual right or correct order as opposed to the assumed order based on custom or something like that.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And so it's interesting. So that's the logic, as we were talked about how Jacob was I forget who brought up how Jacob was raised. That was the logic that Rebecca used when she recruited Jacob to trick Isaac into getting the blessing and screwing over her other son, right? That Rebecca said, like, I know that this is the right path, and we will get there by whatever means necessary. Um, so it raises an interesting question too. I completely agree, right? That this is a moment where it's if we're gonna chart this path forward as this new people, we need the right people in charge. But how do you get into that situation is another question. Mara?
Just, it just kind of struck me that we consistently in the Torah find the second thing to be what we need. So
Mm,
at Sinai, we didn't really get the first tablets. We got the second tablets to lead
mm.
us. And so the notion of not choosing the firstborn, but choosing the other seems in keeping with that pattern.
Right. So this is just a repetition of what we've known and what we've seen before. Nice. Brad?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of thinking the same way. I'm wondering not so much about trickery, but I'm wondering about growth. And to
Mm,
what extent has Jacob grown since his earlier experiences, where he was, maybe we could say he was tricked, uh, but um, but here he's doing something volitionally. He's creating a potential problem where there didn't need to be one.
mm.
So I just wonder about growth.
What do you mean he's creating a problem where there didn't need to be one?
Well, because he's elevating the younger over the older. So, I mean, that's proven to be a problem
Yeah.
in the past. So why would you do that? And the other thing that puzzles me is when he puts his hands on the heads of the two boys, and then in verse 15, and he blessed Joseph, saying, why is he blessing Joseph and not the boys?
Uh, and he blessed Joseph, saying, the God in whose wisdom his father walked, redeeming from all harm, bless the lads. So he's sort of, I don't know, I guess he's sort of blessing them all together, I think is what's happening, right? Joseph and his descendants being blessed together. Yeah, Benjamin?
Thank you, Rabbi. Something, I'm not sure how this fits in exactly, but deathbed confessions have a very specific, say, value in court.
Hmm.
I don't know, these are many of our laws are based on the Torah, of course, our Western laws. And I'm just wondering um, the connection there that they're given. Um, You don't have to be sworn in to make a deathbed confession. It stands on its own. And if you really think you're going to die, the courts usually look at them with, um, high value in terms
Hmm.
of being truthful and honest.
Exactly, right? That we don't think of those moments as being a time to, I don't know, make something up or add drama. It tends to be something that people need to get off their chest. That's real. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Panina? Or hold on, you need to unmute.
Okay, there is an idea behind the name. The names were supposed to be showing a development in history, and most of them would be either to be more in numbers, but it also was to be the number who is going to believe in the one God. It wasn't enough just to be big and a lot. Big and a lot in doing what? So the idea was always that the part that's going to be more of, it would be the part that will believe in God, in the one God. That's why Jacob was also called Israel, the one who wrestled with God. The whole idea was which nation is going to be the follower? Which one is going to be what we call today the Jews, which also again means believing in that one God, Yehudi, Yehuda. It's like God will be the one with the glory.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Susan, you have a hand raised?
Yes, he does bless Joseph as well, and he on his deathbed,
Hmm.
which I don't know that he's yet on his deathbed, but they say in Dutch, he goes through it all. They never seem like blessings to me.
Mm.
The best is what he says for Judah, but Joseph.
So that's the next section we're going to get to.
Okay, all right, let's do
So why
it.
don't we
I don't get it. I don't see how those are blessings.
okay, so he does this first round of blessing to Joseph and his sons, and then he continues for Joseph's sons, Jacob's grandsons, and then he turns to his sons to give them blessings. So Susan, why don't you read the English for us there?
Sure, and unless he's just telling them the truth, and that's the blessing, but that's his version of the truth as well, and we know
Mm.
that's not always good or the blessing. Okay, and Jacob called his sons and said, "Come together that I might tell you what is to befall you in days to come." So, okay, so that's the prophecy. Assemble and hearken, O sons of Jacob. Hearken to Israel your father. Reuben, you're my firstborn, my might and first fruit of my vigor, exceeding in rank and exceeding in honor. But unstable as water, you shall excel no longer. When you mounted your father's bed, you brought disgrace. My couch he mounted. And that's referring to Bilhah and Jacob,
Hmm.
Reuben.
Yep, exactly.
Simeon and Levi are a pair. Their weapons are tools of lawlessness. Let not my person be included in your council. Let not my being be counted to their assembly. For when angry, they slay a man, and when pleased, they maim an ox. Cursed be the anger so fierce, and the wrath so relentless. I will divide them in Jacob, scatter them in Israel. So you, O Judah, your brothers shall praise. Your hand shall be on the nape of your foes. Your father's sons shall bow low to you. Uh, Judah is a lion's whelp. On prey, my son, have you grown. He crouches, lies down like a lion, like a lioness. Who dare arouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, so that the tribute shall come to him and the homage of peoples be his. He tethers his ass to a vine, his ass's foal to a choice vine. He washes his garment in wine, his robe in blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, his teeth are whiter than milk. This is a long one, isn't
Yes,
it?
yeah.
All good. Now, Zebulun shall dwell by the seashore. He shall be a haven for ships, and his flank shall rest on Sidon. Issachar is a strong-boned ass, crouching among the sheepfolds. When he saw how good was security and how pleasant was the country, he bent his shoulder to the burden and became a toiling serf. Dan shall govern his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the road, a viper by the path that bites the horse's heels, so that his rider is thrown backward. I wait for your deliverance, O Adonai. Gad will be raided by raiders, but he shall raid at their heels. Asher's bread shall be rich, and he shall yield royal dainties. Naphtali is a hind let loose, which yields lovely fawns. Joseph is a wild ass by a spring, wild colts on hillsides. Archers bitterly assail him. They shot at him and harried him, yet his bow stayed taut, and his arms were made firm by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. There, the shepherd, the rock of Israel, the God of your father's house, who helps you, and Shaddai, who blesses you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that couches below, blessings of the breast and womb, the blessings of your father surpass the blessings of my ancestors to the utmost bounds of the eternal hills. May they rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the elect of his brothers.
All right. So this is along, right? He addresses all his children. So I go back again to the original question. What part of this seems like genuine blessing and what part of this seems like a trick or something unkind, maybe? Brad.
Well, I'm not answering your question. I'm
Okay.
asking a question. Why
Okay.
isn't Benjamin listed?
There's the next section I forgot to include is
Ah,
Benjamin is like a wolf and devours his foes, something like that.
okay. So he is included.
Yes, he is included.
Mhm.
I just left that one little section off. Okay, so what is genuine here and what is um I don't know, deceptive? David?
I think it ties into before. Jacob sees clearly. He sees clearly what the two little boys that he's switching the blessing on. He sees his sons very clearly, and
Mm,
he sees the future to a degree. And so blindness seems to me an illusion because
mm,
sight is very clear. I mean, and the thing that comes to my mind in this is when Moses is taken up on the hill. God's not going to let him go into the promised land, but he shows him all of Israel.
mm,
One could interpret that to mean not just the land, because the land is farther than anyone could see, but in some sense, he's been given a vision of the history of Israel, the future of Israel. And that seems to me, this is a mini version of that, a sort of preparatory version of this is what's going to happen.
yeah, so it's a kind of revelation or prophecy that he is, and it's not, even when it's harsh, it's not meant to be mean, right? It's just honest.
The first three sons are not good actors. They've
No,
all done
yeah.
things that don't earn them a place. And the first person who gets a sort of lengthy version in this is Judah, because now you talk about it's not second son, he's the fourth son, but he's
Hmm.
clearly the leader until Joseph, who has a different trajectory.
Right. So the ones who get the nasty words warranted them. Gotcha. Okay. So what do we make of these as something that the father is saying to his sons on his deathbed?
Don't the tribes end up warring and the only one that's left is Judah, right?
No, not quite. What do you mean? Like all the tribes are
Wait. So I'm getting it backwards, I think.
okay.
The tribes all disappear except for the tribe of Judah.
Not quite.
Okay.
Um, so yes, so many of because the majority of the tribes were in the northern kingdom was called Israel. The southern kingdom was called Judah, but it wasn't just the tribe of Judah that was there. The in 722, when the Assyrian Empire captured the kingdom of Israel, all of those people were deported. So those are the lost tribes of Israel. Those people were basically deported to other parts of the Assyrian um, empire, but the kingdom of Judah continued. Um, so they didn't, yes, there definitely was warfare between the tribes. There was definitely some tribes that did not get along, but none of them like destroyed each other or anything like that. It's a good question. But in terms of, yes, Mara, you got to unmute.
So Jacob is condemning his sons, these sons, Reuben, Judah, for moral failings.
Mm-hmm.
Yet,
Not Judah, Reuben and Simeon and Levi.
correct, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yet, Jacob was guilty of moral failings, of, in some ways, the same moral failings.
Yeah.
So, how at this point in your life do you condemn those failings in others without an admission of that failing in yourself?
Hmm. What do you think?
I think I go back to the question that's been in our Saturday morning Torah study. Why are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob named as our patriarchs, and Joseph is not, and these sons are not?
Hmm.
Um, and they're just, I don't have a way of using that information to either understand what I'm being told or understand how I'm being told to um, both um, behave and understand my faith.
Hmm. Because it becomes more complicated.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good question, right? Of to what extent are these people, um, what is it, do as I say, not as I do? And to what extent are they actual exemplars for us to follow? Yeah. Brad?
Yeah, Rabbi Leader, in speaking about this a few weeks ago,
Hmm.
and the Joseph story, talked about the space between resentment and forgiveness.
Hmm.
And uh, Jacob here seems somewhat resentful of
Hmm.
about three of his sons, at least three of his sons. And there's certainly, I don't know about some of the others. You have I have some questions as well. The language isn't all that positive about
Yeah.
some of them. So it seems to me that resentment, uh, you know, Nietzsche studied this space between resentment and forgiveness. And
Hmm.
he found that according to him, the solution is active forgetting.
Yeah.
Putting forgetting as actively forgetting something
Yeah.
as a way of moving beyond your resentments. And I think that Jacob could have benefited from a little
Yeah.
active forgetting on his deathbed about his sons,
Yeah.
some of his sons at least.
Yeah. Well, and I think it also raises the question of like in this moment at his deathbed, um, is it does he want to actively forget and let go and move forward and just just
Le-
say, you know what? It all comes out in the wash. I love you. Wish you, a wonderful life. Or is it a time to say, like, give that bluntly honest feedback of you really messed up when you did this and you will reap the consequences of it. And what does that moment call for? I think is up to the individual, right? Yeah, Susan?
Yes, I see that, and thank you, Brad, for bringing that up. And I agree. I mean, there has to be, well, we have justice and compassion as our two major pillars, let's say, in Judaism. And Jacob, I don't think is acting like a father here. He's telling them what he sees and what he thinks, but let's think of it in our own families. How would we feel if our parents told us this on their deathbed?
Yeah.
That you're, well, a wild ass he has favorably, but look at you're a jerk. As you said that he loves them, there's no love in here. The only love came Jacob for Rachel and then for Rachel's children. But there's no love in a parent here. And what kind of resentment or the problems does that build in a child that hears these horrible words from the father?
Yeah.
He's more of like following Judaism or whatever, his struggle with God as somewhat of a prophet or seeing the future. But even that is pretty bad. Dad sees this future of me, which isn't so great, and he doesn't love me. I mean, that was the whole thing that started the problems with the brothers anyway. Besides the favoritism, he probably didn't show any love for the boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
The girl for that matter. He left Simeon and Levi to do the hard work and just sat there when he heard his daughter was raped. So
Yeah. I think Jacob, in many ways was lacking as a father.
yeah.
It doesn't seem to be, so I'm thinking of what David was saying. He doesn't seem to be lacking in his understanding of his children and what their roles in the world are going to be. But he does seem to be lacking in his ability to be fair and, I don't know, appropriately engaged and involved. Um,
And loving. There's no
and
love.
loving.
These
Yeah.
aren't loving statements from a father.
Yeah. Yeah, Benjamin.
Well, a few weeks ago, we were with your colleague, Rabbi Leah, and we talked about Jacob. And, he has all these sort of quirkiness in his behavior where he misses social cues and he obviously lacks empathy. Um, Fairness is maybe not so accurate for him, not so fair always. And I said, gee, maybe he was sort of the first documented case of somebody being on the spectrum, like you know, some kind of autism or something like that. But so he's very brilliant, but he just can't really socially. He has issues. So I don't want to make excuses for him, but he was flawed.
So interesting. So I would say, right here, I would interpret Jacob as the first con artist that which I think plays similarly of very smart, um, knows how to maneuver, but is not playing by the correct rules of social engagement. But I think you're right. Like that is what we're seeing in Jacob is someone who has certain strengths and has some real blind spots, as well, as well. But I think ultimately the things that we learn, and this is what I think a lot about the book of Genesis too, is we learn from what they do. We learn from what our ancestors have done, some of which to do and some of which not to do. Um, and we sort of see in the conclusion, in the wrap up of this book, we get sort of another instance of the strengths and weaknesses of the people who came before us, which I think as Jews, we understand people to be complex and complicated. Jews don't have these sort of, for the most part, these angelic figures who can do no wrong, except maybe for Noah, and we don't hear a ton from Noah. We get a little blip. But these other characters, these other people really teach us the complexities of life and what it means to navigate the world as Jews, for better or worse. Um, so thanks everyone for joining. I feel like this is a good place for us to wrap up for the day. Um, I wish you a happy and healthy new year. I hope it is not morally ambiguous. And it is nothing but pure, genuine blessings, no trickery or backhanded compliments or anything of the sort. So it's really wonderful to see you all, and it's nice to be back, and I hope I'll see you all again soon. So Shabbat Shalom. Hope it's a good weekend.
Thank you
Shabbat
so much.
Bye.
shalom. Thank
Shabbat
you.
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
shalom.
Thank you.